Welcome to the Kimble-Cast, where we discuss everything AP government. I'm Alex,
I'm Cooper.
This is Jibs.
and today, for our first ever episode, we will be discussing George Washington's profound influence on the nation as a whole.
Okay, can I just say though, like George, my boy, he's built so different. I
Built
mean,
better, completely better.
than the other presidents. He's the first one, of course.
First, and in my humble opinion, I think the most influential.
I
Well,
think
he's
that
my
argument
favorite.
got tiring in the debate about how he's just the first and that's why. But I feel like that's just true.
It's just how it is. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's the facts.
I mean,
Like,
the man's policy achievements. I mean, I know, Cooper, you want to touch on this a little bit, but
Oh yeah. Like he's very good with the Britain and France issues, like Jay's Treaty. We had a lot of issues with Britain after America's independence and articles of confederation got fortnighted,
mhm.
and he had John Jay made a treaty with Britain to basically stop them from walking all over us in trade. So
And I think we got that was it most valued favorable nation trade award thing?
yes,
Something like that. The thing that's good about are we talking about Jay's treaty?
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Well, it kind of like we got the short end of the stick because they kind of got to step on us, but it's worth it because
delayed
it
a war.
delays the war until 1812, and that's really important. I mean,
Especially for like a young nation, I
we're not
assume as
even
you're about
20
to
years
say.
old. hmm
Yeah,
and
I
then
think that's just incredible.
and it also showed the power to make treaties. That's like one of the first few. And then
Absolutely.
we have Pinckney's treaty next.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
I mean, we basically scammed the Spanish out of what was it? Florida border, Mississippi River. I mean, we kept them out of any Native American conflicts. It the Spanish monumentally messed up, and George Washington, via Pinckney, was able to completely take advantage of that, and we got an absolutely awesome deal for what Jay's treaty didn't give us. Pinckney's treaty absolutely makes up for it.
Was it Florida territories that we got?
Florida border, I believe.
Mm.
Yep.
Florida Georgia line,
Florida border, navigation of the Mississippi River.
Hmm.
Um,
which led to the expansion, westward expansion, which made our nation grow so powerful.
Half the
mhm.
country that's today. So
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's good foreign policy. And for the war or for the revolution in France, he just kind of like let's sit this one out.
I
Yeah.
mean, he wasn't entirely cold or unsympathetic to the French. There was a French diplomat, I believe, who got sent over here, and likely he would have been executed if he returned back to France. So he was willing to let them have asylum, but he didn't want to actually pick a side in the conflict, which I believe would grow to be the Napoleonic Wars.
Hmm.
yeah.
Actually, didn't hear that about
I
that.
think an important anecdote is um, his choice to withhold information about Jay's treaty from Congress. I can't remember what that power is called, but he
Executive
can.
privilege.
That's it. It's executive privilege. He kind of shaped that for future presidents.
Yeah,
That is true.
that is a massive precedent he set.
That's an informal power as well. So
Hmm.
if we're talking about precedents, it's an informal power that I guess, he just decided he had
I
something like that.
mean,
I don't know
if
somehow.
it was required to fulfill the presidency and help the nation, I mean, that's what's going to be done, and I think that's something big.
So he was a good. Yeah,
Yeah.
we touched on treaties, trade agreements, the Jay's Treaty, and all that. Him being a commander in chief.
Oh, his military successes. Yeah, I mean, the man's domestic policy with the brewing conflicts in the new nation, they were incredible. I mean, the way he dealt with an indigenous rebellion, Lil
He's
Wayne,
Lil Wayne, my favorite.
great guy.
Um, yeah, and then that ends with another treaty, Treaty of Greenville. we get Ohio essentially.
Hmm.
They can still hunt in there and all that, but it gives us more land essentially because of Greenville.
Absolutely. And again, it's the Western expansion thing. I mean, the man also had plenty of rebellions to take down.
Like the Whiskey Rebellion, challenged the government on a whiskey tax that they thought was quite unfair. Um,
Hmm.
Washington, I believe he was pretty swift in putting down the rebellion. He was once he decided that it was time to end it. Uh, what he ended it without violence. The military put it down without hurting anyone initially.
And
Which is
that's
Most
good.
most of the
absolutely great.
insurgents were also sent home unharmed.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what happened was they were rebelling, and then Washington's like, I let's put the Constitution to use. He enforced the laws. He became the commander in chief and commanded the militia there, and just said, yeah, I mean, you can look at the army, you can try, but you should just give up now.
Yeah,
And
it's
I mean, they did.
there was no way they could win. And I think Washington basically saying, "Fight me, I dare you." I mean,
It's a Chad move.
He was
absolutely.
prepared for it, but that's not what he wanted to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, even not on the war front, but still domestically, I mean, the man solved one of the other major issues and what's sort of the formation of political parties with the national bank dispute. He used, I believe, his important use of important legislation to actually basically create a giant national bank. So Jefferson and Hamilton would stop going at each other, which I don't know if they ever really did stop, but I
No.
mean, the man's influence with the bank, that's something big. And I believe the bank is, at least through early American history, one of the prevailing things that keeps coming back again.
Uh, I
True.
believe the second. No, that was the second national bank. Never mind. One of the national banks ended up being abolished
Yeah, I
by a
think
later president. That was the
Jackson.
second one, Andrew Jackson.
Oh, Jackson was
So
against it, right?
yeah,
Yeah, no,
and
yeah.
Washington set the precedent that presidents could do stuff about the banks, whether it's creating or destroying. I mean, I think that in and of itself is a display of his power.
And one important thing is he didn't really have policies that he pushed onto Congress.
No,
Everyone,
Congress was like
well,
went
everyone
with it.
just respected him so much. They were like, let's fit this so he doesn't hate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna spit some facts here. I
Go ahead.
mean, Washington, he passed a good amount of legislation for the time. Articles of Capitulation, Copyright Act of 1790, as we mentioned, First Bank of the United States, Naturalization Acts of 1790 and 1795, which I believe is where we get our information on citizenship, and especially for those earlier Americans, how that would actually work out. Previously mentioned Pinckney's Treaty, Jay Treaty, as we also mentioned, Residence Act of 1790, Slave Trade Act of 1794, which sort of put in motion the, I guess, path to abolition and the stopping of the slave trade. He
But
also
that
passed,
was just in, I mean, in law, but if no one really followed it, because people still decided, right? I believe
yeah, I
they
think
still,
but it was still a pretty big step. I mean, all he
that
could
is
do
true.
for the time. The Naval Act of 1794, and the United States Bill of Rights, which is still a massive thing. I mean, his influence passing legislation is incredible.
Did, did he have? I mean, I think he had two executive orders, but they
I
weren't.
believe, or was it vetoes or executive orders?
I I don't remember.
We
You're
can
gonna have
cut
to
this out, by
check,
the way.
but yeah, that's fine. In the meanwhile, though, we covered his foreign policy, his domestic policy, um, his
Yeah,
judicial
it was
nomination
two vetoes.
too,
Yeah, it was the
and
two
he only
vetoes.
vetoed stuff that was unconstitutional, like he
Absolutely.
deemed unconstitutional, which is pretty. I mean,
A
nowadays
responsible
it's
use of the presidency.
Nowadays, it's like I don't
Not
agree with
even.
it. So,
Well, he had 0 pocket vetoes.
oh,
Just 2 total vetoes. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
because for him, like Continental Congress, they were just like, yeah, let's just make this guy the president for this convention.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, his impact and influence, the way he did all these things, it just expanded and built the presidency to a certain level that we expect and honestly wish our presidents nowadays could even
Yeah,
reach. I
that's
mean,
funny.
I mean, we talk about how Congress really respected him, but it feels like also the respect was mutual. You know,
oh,
he
definitely. He always listened to, I mean, his advisors. He respected their powers and consciousness, if that makes sense. I mean,
Yep.
he knew that they had opinions and they should also be listened to. Again, something that we're missing nowadays.
Well, nowadays it's just easy for so if the in the cabinet, which George Washington set the precedent, because there's nothing in the Constitution that says that he the president now can just fire their cabinet member who they don't like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. I believe it.
Well,
Well,
go ahead.
it was. I think it was Donald Trump. He he claimed the election was fraud, whether you believe it or not. He fired his I want to say director of like cybersecurity, so some
I
guy named
believe it
Luke
was something like
Krebs,
that.
and when he said that was the most secure election we've ever had, and he can just fire him because that's the president can do that. But Washington didn't really do that. He always listened to them.
I mean, even if he disagreed, he was still consider their opinions, and I think that's also a major precedent he set.
I think he realized that the point of a cabinet is not to have a bunch of people who agree with you, but a bunch of experts who have different perspectives on things.
Absolutely.
True. Let's see. So, cover that. Judicial nomination. Ooh.
I know you have a lot to talk about in this one.
This is a big one.
So, I mean, he elected the first Chief Justice, John Jay. Hello.
You love him.
He's built different. Appointed 10 Supreme Court justices, most of anyone, and 28 district court judges, which in
That time.
in their time when we had how many district courts did we have? I don't
Oh,
even
that's a
remember.
great question.
But compared to their time, that's a lot. That's a good amount for our young nation.
In 1789.
You're looking it up.
Yeah. Yeah, there were actually just 13 districts. That doesn't sound right, but
Well,
13
13 states.
judicial
Right?
districts. Districts of one
I mean, I
court,
wonder
one
how
Well,
many.
you got to think
served.
about that was over 2 terms.
That is
Yeah,
true.
So,
I wonder.
but still influential and an expansion of his power.
So that's 2.6. How did the president expand the power? You have something for this, Cooper?
how did the president expand the power?
Mm-hmm.
I would say a great example is again the cabinet, because there was nothing in the Constitution that said that the president had this power, but he just decided, yes, we do.
Informal
And
power, right?
yeah, informal power,
Mm-hmm.
and it's influenced every presidency since, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they would
Very
look at him.
big. Everyone said, well, Washington had one, so I have one too. Very big precedent.
I mean,
And
that is
then
just
they kept adding and adding and adding
Yeah.
and adding and adding. And I still don't get why they named the Secretary of War. Oh, that's too scary. We're the Secretary of Defense, guys.
that's a good
They
We don't
changed
do a
it.
lot of defending, it's mostly.
We do a lot of going into other countries and then
We do a
stationing
little
there.
trolling.
Yeah, I don't know if that's trolling or not, but it was very funny to me. My opinion, it was really funny that they said, "Yeah, Secretary of War, that's too offensive. That's too much." Just got to make it
Secretary of War
defense.
sounds good.
That's where we draw the line. Like,
That's where we draw the line, guys. Um, yeah, like we said before, he set executive privilege with Jay's treaty. Congress respected Washington, and no one fought his appointments or anything.
Which is very
This,
rare.
yeah, and that gave the precedent of the president selecting their cabinet members, because the Senate could hold them hostage, say, "We're gonna choose them, and if you don't, we're just not gonna pass your candidates." Like they could just say that easily.
Mm-hmm. And Washington also, another precedent he set, and again, going back to modern presidents, this is something that a former president of ours loved to do. He did his best to actually communicate with the people. Obviously, there wasn't a Twitter back then, so he delivered farewell address once he had left office, which kind of listed out some of his hopes and wishes.
another precedent.
Mm-hmm. State of the Union address, which we still have today, which
Another
kind of
precedent.
talked about his game plan. Unfortunately, he couldn't reach out to every single person. I mean, just for the time, that was going to be impossible. But he communicated really well with his other branches of government. They were on the same page as him, and as we had mentioned many times before, they respected him enough to work alongside him and be like, hey, this is what you want to do? Okay, we're going to figure this out.
I mean, I remember reading about Washington that he was very um, informal. His choice to choose Mr. President over a title of like a noble title, and just to be
Mm-hmm.
called
I
a
mean,
president and
king,
not a king at
emperor,
all, right? That he really wanted to not act all elite and posh and more close with the people.
and I think that's something that the young nation really needed. And I think that's something that modern presidents should still appeal to, being a person of the people. I mean, not a high and mighty king, an untouchable king like
One
King George.
side note about that. After George was John Adams, and he suggested his title was His Highness, the President of the United States of America and the Protector of Liberties.
Ooh, I'm adding that
John
one to my resume.
Adams.
And
John
then,
Adams was a very important founding father, but he was a bit of a
yeah, he was a
snob.
bit.
Nut job.
But we had Jefferson, who called it the most superlatively like stupid thing he's ever heard. So it just, the Jefferson John Adams war is just great.
Jefferson has some of the most brutal roasts of all time. And even when he disagreed with other people around him, especially, Hamilton and Adams, he was still able to be united under George Washington. Washington was a fantastic uniter. Again, something modern presidents should really strive to be. And I
Can
think
you
that's,
blame them though?
What a great
I mean,
cabinet.
yeah.
I don't know how you. I mean, if a president steps in now, it's just hard to unite. I mean, I get that you can try not attacking the other side, but sometimes, as president, like you get dragged into it.
And as Washington warned perfectly in his farewell address, I mean, which is basically some of the best communication he was able to get out, he warned against political parties as something that could potentially derail and damage the nation. And I think he understood that unity was such an important thing.
His whole career
True.
was unifying people
Mm-hmm.
from being
Pretty
a
much, because
leader in war.
And then the man just pieced out.
everyone, well, when he was running in 1788 to 1789, everyone just said, "Yeah, we're just running for second place at this point. No, he's gonna get like the electoral votes to win as president. We just want to see who gets VP."
And because of all of that, I mean, he even influenced the way vice president elections are. I mean, because for a while it was, hey, we're all just going to beat each other up for the chance at being vice president because of Washington being so popular. But nowadays it's picked and agreed on by the president or presidential candidate.
As I heard Jib say a while ago, based on Washington not immediately wanting to be the president or even be a part of the Constitutional Convention. It took a lot of convincing. Jim said something like the best leaders don't aren't actively trying to be the leaders.
They're put there because they are, people see them as leaders.
The most
They
qualified.
present themselves in a way that they don't desire to be one, but when they're forced to be one, they
They're a
can.
successful leader.
Like George, pre-Revolutionary War, or not pre, post-Revolutionary War, he led
I
that,
mean,
led us into victory pretty much.
everything he did was just so monumental. I mean, I don't even know how many times I can say it and in different words. He set the bar. He is the bar itself. And I don't even know if we've had a president that could do everything he did and have as much influence as he actually had.
Yeah, and I said this in the debate, but the difference between the first president to the 35th, which is JFK, who we fought in the debate, is more than the 35th to the 46th.
46th.
Yep.
I
So
mean,
that's why I would say he's just the first one is just better. Like we said in the beginning, he's built differently.
he's built better. He's like the $6 million man.
I think
Sorry,
that's
dated
pretty much
reference.
it. We covered everything we needed to. Anything else you guys want to
Yeah.
add?
No.
George Washington is just he's just Chadwick. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I
Well,
can say.
I think this has been the Kimble-Cast, your home for everything government AP. Episode 1 finished.